Hello, my name is Diana Anderson, and I want to welcome you to this year's series of Military Family Month presentations hosted by the Delaware Department of Justice's Consumer Protection Unit. I am a paralegal in that unit and a veteran of the United States Air Force. Here with us today is Senior Lieutenant Alan Herring from the Newcastle County Police Department and Chief Paul Woodland from the Veterans Administration. They are here with us to discuss the Veterans Response Team, what it is, and how it helps our veteran Delawareans. Senior Lieutenant Alan Herring obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in criminal justice from Shippensburg University in 1998. Alan has been in law enforcement in Delaware for 24 years and served in the Army Reserve as a staff sergeant in the military Police Corps for 13 years, with overseas tours in Kosovo and Iraq. Throughout his career, Allen worked in and supervised the Mobile Enforcement Team and Drug Control Squad. Allen was promoted to lieutenant in 2017, where he supervised a patrol squad as the Behavioral Health Unit Executive Officer. His experience in the military and enforcing drug laws gave him the understanding and skills that has helped him assist veterans in need through the VRT program. Chief Paul Woodland has worked with the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs Police for 15 years. During his time with the VA, Chief Woodland has worked in Baltimore, Maryland, Coatesville, PA, and Wilmington, Delaware. Prior to working for the VA, Chief Woodland served in the United States Navy for 11 years, one of which was being deployed as an augmentee to the Alabama National Guard. Chief Woodland has been involved with the Veterans Response Team since 2017. Lieutenant Herring, Chief Woodland, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
To kick things off, Lieutenant Herring and Chief Woodland, could you please provide us just a high-level review of what the Veterans Response Team is, how it got started, and which police agencies in Delaware have them?
Sure, I'll kick it off with a high level. Chief, you've been here since the beginning, so I'll punt over to you for that. But high level is it's taking police officers and first responders who have previous service or current service in the military and are veterans, and getting them involved through their departments and using that connection to the community through calls for service to connect individuals to appropriate levels of care when they're experiencing a crisis.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The program in Delaware started in and around 2016 when some officers from Newcastle County felt that they needed to do more to help veterans in crisis. So they sent some of their staff down to Apex, North Carolina to attend some training. And then they came back and engaged us at the VA, which I'm super thankful for, as well as the National Alliance on Mental Illness chapter here in Delaware, the Superior Courts, and some other local police departments within the state to develop a curriculum and host a first class. So we've been hosting 2 classes a year every year since then. And it's a great program. It's a 2-day training. It's 16 hours. The first day and a half is a lot of presentation heavy, teaching the officers about resources available to them, how to build on their crisis intervention training to use that and apply it to dealing with veterans. And then the second half of the second day is all role playing, which is kind of the highlight of the class, I would say. We use veterans in our role playing to help make it more realistic. And something I should add is that a prerequisite to attend the class is you have to be a law enforcement officer and a veteran yourself. So this is a peer support program in which veterans who are also police officers are responding to incidents involving veterans. And what we've learned is that peer-to-peer rapport that's established at the very beginning of these incidents really de-escalates things.
Thank you so much. You've already touched a little bit on the training for the VRT members. Lieutenant Herring, on your side, what does that look like?
So, as Chief alluded to, and I wanted to touch on that first question a little bit, there are departments throughout the state. We have 21 departments to include probation and parole, DENREC, DRVA, the VA police, as well as your larger departments, Newcastle County, Delaware State Police, Wilmington, and then all the way down to the smaller departments downstate. So all 3 counties have VRT officers within their police departments. And the training, as Chief alluded to, is, officers first have to go through the 40-hour crisis intervention team training, which is hosted by NAMI. And then once they have that 40 hours and they are veteran, they then are eligible to go to the VRT training, which is that 2-day course. It's held locally, down in Dover, so it's kind of central to the state for everybody to get to. And, it's hosted by NAMI. VA takes a bulk of it, as well as the court systems and things like that, to have that training, so that really teaches the officers, one, how to de-escalate using time and distance, which really goes on top of that CIT training, but also then how to establish the rapport from one veteran to another. We all speak that different kind of language, and we, have the acronyms and can make fun of each other and help to establish that rapport to hopefully de-escalate situations when needed. And then also, gives a good overview for the officers what resources are out there for the individual in crisis, so that we can prevent future interactions.
Fantastic. So, how do VR teams work in practice? Say if they get called out to a scene. Also, what happens after the VRT team responds?
So the information's either gleaned from the radio room, we call ours recom. There's suscom, there's CENTCOM, the different call takers that receive the 911 call. And if they're able to establish that an individual involved is a veteran, they put that out over the dispatch. And then basically veteran response team officers that are working at that time listen out for those type of calls. And if they hear another veteran in crisis, each department has different policies and procedures as to how their VRT operates. But for ours, for example, all of our officers work in zones and sectors, right? So we stay in a sector because I'm not going to respond from Claymont to Middletown for an everyday call for service because of the drive time. So I stay in Claymont, But if I hear a call for a veteran come in and I'm in Claymont and they're in Middletown, there's no other VRT officers, I get the ability to go down there and respond to help that veteran in crisis out. There may be officers that get there first that establish, to start the escalation, but then knowing I'm en route to be able to talk and help that individual from the veteran standpoint and a veteran's point of view, it's nice to know you have in the back pocket. So we average about 3 veteran response team officers per squad. We have 4 squads on the department. Our department as a whole has about 31 VRT trained officers, to include 3 females. So it depends on who, when, and where, what you have available as resources. But, like you said, what happens afterwards? Well, if we can't get a VRT member to you, it may be a crisis intervention team trained officer. It may be a behavioral health unit officer that's coming to help out. But then we make referrals after the fact on the back end. And that's where the partnership with Chief Woodland and his crew over at the VA is so important, that we're making referrals. We're taking firsthand experience. Me personally, I never utilized the VA until I started taking VRT and realized, hey, there's a lot of stuff out there eligible. And I'm glad I did, because now I'm getting free healthcare, hearing aids, things like that. And being able to have that knowledge and background of how the system works, and being able to go to talk to another veteran who may not be utilizing all that's available to them. The call just doesn't end when we take the person where they need to go or de-escalate the situation. We continue following up. We make referrals to the VA. If there is an arrest that has to be made, we'll make referrals to Veterans Court and things like that when appropriate.
Yeah, I think Lieutenant Herring's hit the nail on the head there with the follow-up care and making sure that it doesn't stop at the end of the call. And yeah, that usually is where our team at the VA comes into the picture. And I also like that he mentioned that there's a lot of resources out there that people aren't aware of, that he learned through the training, which is important. A lot of people might not think of the VA at first, but after the training they do. And it doesn't always just start that way. Sometimes the VA are the ones that initiate it. So sometimes we'll get a veteran who expresses, say, some suicidal ideations, and they're out in the community, and we'll call Newcastle County Police or that local police department to that veteran and ask them to respond out and make sure that veteran's okay, and see if they need anything. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. But at least we know they're okay, and we're able to follow up with them in safety plan.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm so sorry.
If I can add on, Diana, real quick, it's kind of the unintended consequences. The whole initial response was crisis and de-escalation, but it's developed into so much more. I came in this morning and I had an email from a sergeant out on the street who dealt with a veteran last night, and it was just this veteran needed some extra help outside of being in a crisis, right? So it's, hey, let's reach out to our partners, see what we can do to prevent any kind of future crisis. Instances where officers are out on a domestic or check on the welfare or any other kind of call for service, and they find that an individual is a veteran, and they can kind of establish that rapport and say, hey, are you getting everything you need? What can we help you with? And then making those referrals. Again, it's all about that. First responders in general and police especially have a unique ability to have a connection with people in the community. And a lot of times it's at their worst, right? But what can we do to make it better so that they don't have to continue relying on 911 or calling for police? Let's see what else we can get out there to help them.
I think that brings up another point too. I'm sorry to pile on here, but I'm really passionate about the program. And one of the reasons why is the effectiveness of it. Last year, we as in the VA paired up with Delaware State University and did a study on all of the incidents in which veterans were contacted by local law enforcement and subsequently either a warm handoff directly to the VA or a referral for follow-up. And what the study did is it looked at veterans' engagement and treatment 6 months prior to that incident and then 6 months after, and almost across the board and almost at 100%, those veterans were more engaged in treatment for the 6 months following. So I think that's a really promising study that shows the effectiveness of the program. We do need to do more research to see, what the final outcome was, if they've had more run-ins with the law or if they stayed engagement post those 6 months, but it really is promising. So I'm excited about the future of the program for those reasons.
Thank you so much. And without your passion, we couldn't do this, and it wouldn't be. So thank you. So just to clarify things for our audience, if my loved one is a veteran in crisis, or if I, as a veteran, am in crisis, can I just request the VRT team? And if I do, who should I contact to request that VRT response?
Absolutely. I mean, if it's a crisis to the point where you're calling 911 and need a police response, you can request a veteran response team officer. Whether there's one available or not, that's, a different story. As I said, we have, 31 spread out through a department. So the availability is the big thing. But if there is not a VRT officer there, there's still other options that we have, and most departments throughout the state do. Second, you can ask for a crisis intervention team trained officer, right? So they've gone through 40 hours of training hosted by NAMI to work on de-escalation and getting people connected to care through mental health. And then they'll make a referral to a VRT officer after the fact, and then we'll make those connections later on down the road. But yes, you can always request one. If not, then the secondary would be request a crisis intervention team trained officer. But anytime you call the 911, yeah, that is an option for you. And based on availability, they'll dispatch one.
Fantastic. So you talked a little bit about developments and plans for the future. Can you share any with us in detail?
I think one of the. Oh, go ahead, Chief.
No, go ahead
first.
No, just recently we started a program in New Jersey. So that's the first for them. Atlantic County and Bergen County in New Jersey hosted classes, one in North and one in South Jersey. They had officers, at least one from each of the 21 counties there, attend that training. So we're really hopeful about that. We also recently started a program in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. And that program seems to be going well. Both of those originated after folks from those two states came and attended our training in Delaware and then wanted to replicate it where they live. And so that's great. And then on top of that, that study that I had mentioned earlier got some attention at some high-level folks at the VA, and they've now rolled out a nationwide deflection training. So what they're doing there is they've hosted 21 classes throughout the country where they invite police officers, social workers, mental health providers, suicide prevention coordinators from each VA medical center to attend a 2-day training where they teach them about programs like VRT and other programs that kind of deflect veterans out of the criminal justice system and into the treatment areas so they can address those root cause issues. So I think that's really exciting. I hope that those that attend that training across the country go out and replicate what's been going on in Delaware for many years now. It's been super successful. So I'm really excited about the future.
And Diana, to add on to that, one of the things that I think we can really expand on it is the prevention portion of it, not just that crisis response. So what can we do by partnering with the VA and their veteran justice outreach, social workers and things like that, and go and, hey, let's start looking at police data that we collect and who is in need that we're seeing through our everyday response. It may not be popping to the top of the surface, but can we go out and reach out to them and get them connected to resources and things like that prior to there being an emergency? So I think that's an area that we can really work to expand to. Just a matter of data collection, data sharing, and then, the ability to have the bodies to get out there and do it. But it's a definite realm we'd like to look into.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. If there's any university students or staff out there that want a research project, please reach out to us. There's definitely veterans out there that are having negative contact with law enforcement, and VRT or the VA aren't touching, and we'd love to figure out who those folks are and engage them. And we'd also like to have some proof of concept of this program. We believe it works. We have a lot of anecdotal circumstances. We have the initial study that's promising. So data's powerful, especially when it comes to funding and budgets and all of those things, grants. So if we have that data, I think it would be really good.
And how would people contact you if they wanted to participate?
I think that you could reach out to Lieutenant Herring or myself at the VA, and we can get started there.
Wonderful. We'll have those details listed. Okay, so you guys have both given us a lot of helpful information. If the audience only took one thing away from today's discussion, what do you want that to be?
I think it's to know that there are resources out there for veterans in a crisis. By calling and asking for a VRT member to come out, hopefully we can open the door for that person to get them the help that they need. Gone is the day of police just coming out and looking to arrest somebody for a problem, right? We realize finally that there are other root causes that may be creating a person to act a certain way or deal with the problem in certain manners, and that, hey, we can solve those root causes like the chief alluded to earlier and get them the help that they need. We can, better their life, better our interactions with them, and hopefully, divert from arrest and incarceration, because it's a cycle that just never ends, so having these other options out there, but calling, asking for VRT or CIT is huge.
So you mentioned resources. Are there any resources maybe outside of the police department that could better help a family member or loved one of a veteran who's in crisis prepare for that?
Absolutely, Diana. A lot of agencies and a lot of departments throughout the country offer Smart 911. You can log on. You just go to smart911.com and create an account. I actually have one for my own residence. And it basically takes information for individuals that live within the residence. It's information that's only accessible when that house or that phone number that's linked to phone numbers that are linked to the account call 911. And you can put in all kinds of information, medication, healthcare information that you may want to know, lack of mobility within the house, somebody who's, not able to get up and walk to the door or anything like that. So if somebody is living in the house, a great example that we often pitch for people is parents who live with a child with autism, listing in there that this child has autism. Here are ways that you can interact with them that will help calm them down and de-escalate the situation. And that's all available upon dispatch and then gets sent out to the officers, whether VRT, CIT, or a road officer. This information is given to them in advance of their arrival to the house, so that now they're armed with better information to be able to help de-escalate the situation and get them the care they need.
Well, gentlemen, thank you both for your service and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Diane. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so that will conclude today's presentation. If you or a loved one is a veteran and in crisis, please dial 911 and when appropriate, identify the veteran's military status. All right, check back in with us next week for more helpful information. And as always, if you think you have been a victim of consumer fraud, you can find our website at attorneygeneral.delaware.gov/fraud/CPU. Thanks again.